Hi, and welcome to Arts Alive. I'm your host, Walt Haight, and if you're seeing me sit in this chair, you know what we're going to talk about today. We're going to be talking about theater. This time, again, we're going to be talking about the latest production at Gallery Theater. So right now, don't forget, get your paper and pencil out because you've got a few dates to write down for this production. And we're going to be talking today with the director of 9 to 5. We have Robin Pederson with us. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Walt. Delightful to be here.
Before we jump into 9 to 5, let's talk a little bit about Robin Pederson. And most viewers are probably going to know you from the high school, being years there, but why am I talking about it? I want to hear you talk about a little of your past history.
Well, I just retired from 40 years of teaching music, the last 16 at McMinnville High School, of course. Mm-hmm. I have always loved musicals. I have always loved teaching choir, and typically I'm the music director of a musical. And this time I'm doing the directing and the music directing, so it's a little bit bigger project. Raised in Montana, did the West a little bit, teaching here and there. Like I said, 40 years of teaching in the public schools. And now I'm retired, and luckily, because this is a big project, I need lots of hours.
Yeah, well, we talk about, your husband, Mark, and I talked about the fact, Great Falls. Were you in
Yep,
Great Falls?
I was at Great Falls High School for a long time. I grew up in Missoula, and then went to school in Tacoma, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I was at Great Falls High just before coming to McMinnville.
Right. I think you were in Montana, but at the same time I was living in Billings.
Okay.
So it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
But remind me to talk to you about something after the show. Let me talk to you about something after the show. History, a little historical thing on Great Falls.
Okay.
I want to talk to you about.
Will do.
Okay, enough of that. Enough of Great Falls and history. Let's talk a little bit about 9 to 5. You chose this production.
We did. We were, I don't know if you remember, we were in the middle of directing Man La Mancha at the Gallery. And then March 13th, 2020, everybody knows what happened. The world stopped, at least from McMinnville on down. We all stopped. Our set of La Mancha sat on the stage for like a ghost town for at least a year. Finally, we started moving it and kind of finally decided that it's not going to happen. La Mancha's not going to happen. But the board still wanted Mark and I to do a project at the Gallery. They suggested a show. I don't even remember what it was. We weren't interested in that. But then we talked to our daughter, Noelle and her husband, Brad, both professional actors. And they said, you guys should do 9 to 5. And we said, yes, we should. Dolly Parton has always been one of my role models. I loved the movie. So we grabbed a score and we suggested it to the Gallery Selection Committee, and they said, let's do it. And that's why we are here directing 9 to 5, the musical.
9 to 5, the musical, which is based, of course, upon the original 1980 film, that also starred Dolly Parton. So tell me a little bit, if you would, about how this transitioned from being the original movie to the musical that it now is.
Well, the fun story at first about the movie, the 1980 movie, is they asked Dolly to play the lead, and she agreed to do it only if she got to write the theme song. Well, that's a win-win for everybody in the room. So she wrote it. It went to the pop charts, helped sell the movie. 9 to 5, everybody knows that song. Years progressed, and someone kind of kept suggesting she write the musical. She started writing it and discovered she loved the genre because she's such a good storyteller. That's her favorite thing about herself, is her ability to tell stories, and that's what you do in a musical. So she got to do her songwriting and write music. The first read-through was in 2007, and then the first time it was on the stage was in LA in 2008, and then it was on Broadway starting in 2009.
Wow.
And all of the music is written by Dolly. It's amazing. It's so varied. There's almost every genre, and there's jazz chords during One of the Boys. There's country during Cowgirl. There's just kind of obviously the Broadway sound. I mean, there's just everything in it. It's a very fun project.
I'm just curious. Are you familiar or aware of how much time she spent trying to prepare the?
I don't. I apologize that I
were?
don't know the date she started working on it. I do know that Dolly Parton never stops writing. She's writing songs all the time in her head, and every day she writes something. So I'm sure once this got going, and she of course is intimate with the music story. In the musical she stays absolutely dead on with the storyline of the movie. So she wasn't creating characters or any of that, but she just started thinking, oh, there ought to be a song for this, there ought to be a song for this, and then started creating it. I'm sure it took her quite a while.
Well, speaking of the story, can you just lay out for us a little bit the plot?
Yeah, if you haven't seen the movie, really the basis of it is three strong women in 1979 trying to make a difference and making a difference in a man's world. It talks about my good friend Dan Willis is the bad guy, and if you know Dan, he's the nicest guy on the planet, so it's hilarious that he plays Mr. Hart. Sexual harassment is seen from him. He's definitely the villain. But the women are, that glass ceiling, and they're trying to bust through. Violet wants to be the CEO. Some are divorced. They're just making their way and trying to make it in a man's world. As I studied the score and the story, I'm sad that that some of that still exists, that glass ceiling, some of that holding people back 40 years later, still a real story. But I'm also so thankful for the women that stepped out and kept pushing and saying, I can do this. I can be the CEO. I can lead this orchestra. I can, so that's the gist. So it's a amazing story. We stage it in 1979, but it's pretty true to today too. That's still, unfortunately, still happening to women.
So 1979. So basically now a period piece.
Yeah.
And so you being in the office, okay, there's no computers,
Right.
no laptops.
We had to dig up typewriters.
Typewriters.
We had
What
to
are
dig
they?
up phones that have the pickup thing in the dial. Some of those things, as you know, as an actor, are hard to come up with. Those
yeah.
props that are outdated.
I was in a show. Oh, this hurts. Not that long ago, and we had a rotary phone, and there was a young actor said, "How does it work?" Like, my God.
Yeah.
So you I'm thinking colors too, as far as decor. 1979 there's a certain.
There's kind of the rusty oranges
Yeah.
and mustard colors and
Avocado.
those things. In this show, and I don't want to give much away, but in this show, Mr. Hart wants to keep everything serious. So the office is, in the first act, the office is pretty blah. And then finally, the women do start to get to take control of the office by way of getting him out of there. And we add a lot of color. We add a lot of pops of color to liven the place up. So that's a fun piece. And their clothes change. The costumes change too. We add color in the costumes as well.
So you talk about three strong women. Let's talk a little bit about the cast, at least the principals.
Yeah.
Tell me who are your three?
Well, Elise Willis plays Violet. And that is the role played by Lily Tomlin in the movie, but played by Allison Janney on Broadway. Amazing. Elise is amazing. Tegan Johnson plays Judy. That was Jane Fonda's role in the movie. And then Marcy Eckert plays Dorlee, who of course was played by Dolly Parton in the movie.
And Tegan and Mars were seen not quite a
6
year
months ago or so.
6-8 months ago in Mamma Mia.
Yeah.
So they've come back to the stage.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure there's got to be at least some nice tight harmony going on.
Oh, there's
here.
wonderful trio moments. They each have killer songs that are just heart-wrenching or exciting. Dan Willis, who plays Mr. Hart, the bad guy, has a great song, Bring the House Down kind of song. It's pretty fun seeing Dan play across from his in real life wife, Elise, and their arguments are very authentic seeming.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun to have the families on stage.
And Dan and Elise, I don't believe I've had the pleasure of meeting them. They've been in McMinnville long?
Yeah, Dan is a friend of mine from McMinnville High School. He's the art teacher there. And I hadn't met Elise, well, I think maybe met her at a faculty party, but she actually works at the high school now, too, since I've left. She got a job there. And so I've known Dan for quite a while, and they actually met in choir back in college, which is how my husband and I met, was in choir in college. So that's kind of a fun connection with the Willises.
We talked just briefly about the set. This is going to be, I'm sure, a fairly elaborate set.
Yeah, there are so many scenes, and the bullpen, which is where, of course, all the secretaries are, is a huge part of the show, takes the whole stage. Mark, my husband Mark, has designed and is head carpenter of the set. He also shows up at the end as Mr. Tinsworthy, so we get to see him on stage. But we've got two huge wagons, one on stage left, one on stage right, that have four sides, and so there's a scenery on each of the four sides. And then the actors, again, a little bit of a COVID decision and inspired by Hamilton, how the actors move the things around. The actors actually move all of the set pieces, and the desks come rolling on. And so the actors are stage crew and acting and dancing and singing. And it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of time devoted to the construction of this set.
Yep. Still going on.
Still going on. Well, we've got some time left. Now, I asked you earlier to go grab your pencil and paper, because let's talk about show dates.
Well, we open Cinco de Mayo. We open May 5th, so that's been easy for me to remember for the last year or whenever the gallery asked me to do it. Cinco de Mayo, we close on May 28th, and it's Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. In May, all of those in May. The fun thing is the Sunday performances are at 2 o'clock, so there are 4 matinees that you can attend. 4
matinees, and as I always like to remind the viewers, is that the shows now end on they used to end on a Saturday night. Now the shows end on a Sunday matinee, which is, I think, good for everybody, especially the poor actors who have to strike the set afterwards, and they don't have to get home.
This is a big set, so it's going to take a while.
They might still get home at 2 in the morning, but not like the old days when you're almost guaranteed to get home at 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
Great. So we've got 4 weekends starting May 5th, and it's going to be 9 to 5.
The musical.
The musical. And I have nothing but best wishes for a successful run. I'm going to remind the audience one more time that since we've been all coming back from COVID, the shows at Gallery have been very successful, meaning that they sell out. And so if you want to make sure you get a seat, then you should probably call Gallery Theater at 472-2227, 503-472-2227, or at online. You can get your tickets online, www.gallerytheater.org. Well, Robin, it's been wonderful to have you here.
Thank you, Walt.
And I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic run, 9 to 5 at Gallery Theater starting May 5th. Okay, well, thanks again for being here.
Thanks, everybody.
And we'll see you at the theater.